I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into the poignant, powerful world of Diana Leavengood Blanco. She has written a wonderful book. It is called Tales from the Disenchanted and Wisdom from the Haiku. Diana's poetry captures deep emotions, lost memories, and the essence of human experience through beautifully crafted verses. Join us as she shares the inspiration behind her heartfelt poems and the wisdom they impart. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the folks at Bookside Press for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her remarkable book. The links are below this interview. Diana, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Good to see you too, Logan.
Tell us a little bit about the inspiration for you to write this book.
Okay, first I want to apologize to the audience for using notes. My memory has failed me my whole life and it's gotten worse. Perhaps it's been on vacationing in the south of France my whole life.
It's a good
I
place
don't
for
have
your,
any other explanation for
That's
it.
a good place for it to be. I don't mind that one
I
bit.
wish we were there right now.
That'd be perfect. It'd be a little bit cooler than where you are and where I am. That's for sure.
Okay, so what inspired me to write this book? I'm just going to read a poem from the book that tells exactly why.
Sure.
My poems are oftentimes born from some great sadness. They usually speak of things that have been lost. They try to catch the soul and trap the memory, to tell the story true and what the cost. I rhyme because it helps me to remember. I rhyme so I must measure every word. I rhyme to help those lost things live forever in rhyming, lilting, steeped in meaning verse. Words can prevail past flesh or thoughts or empires, and words can make souls live beyond the grave. So man will ever know the wonder of them, the courage that they showed, the joy they gave.
Wonderful. It's a beautiful poem. It's a beautiful poem and does explain it all. The reason why you love poetry, the fact that it reinforces your memory, and that's why you like to write in verse. And it's very, very impactful. Tell us, what was the poem that first inspired you to go on?
Well, the first poem that inspired me is a poem about my dog, Lucy, and it's called A Poem for Lucy. She was the only surviving pup born in the cold winter of Petersburg, Virginia, under a farmhouse from a stray mother dog. And I took her under my wing and she took me under hers. And we traveled up and down the East Coast together. And then after I moved to California, she was my only companion going back and forth between Florida, where I was born, and California, where I lived. And so I'm just going to read her poem for you.
Sure.
Okay, let me find it here. And here's a picture of Lucy with my little daughter. Can you see it?
Oh, I can. That's a beautiful picture. Beautiful. Dog is about twice the size of your daughter. And looks like a very, very sweet and gentle dog, though. What a beautiful picture.
Here's her poem. You were my friend, the best of all. I had to leave you there. You stood by me through darkest pall. I had to leave you there. You never asked too much of me, but you were always there. We shared so many, many years, and then I left you there. The cancer grew. I did not know, and you did not complain. The doctor said, now let her go. There's nothing left but pain. I held you, whispered how I loved, though you could barely hear. I held you, hoping that my arms would help allay your fear. One instant passed, from life to death, the journey had been made. The specter drug had done its work. Now nothing but the grave. You looked so small, so helpless. Still, it seemed too much to bear. One last goodbye and one last glance, and then I left you there. I wrote these words when first we met. Now they come back to me. Such simple words to have the strength to bind our destinies. I'm taking the puppy, if only to teach her some manners. I'll bring her back if you want me to, or if it doesn't work out. I guess it worked for 15 years. My Lucy dog was here. The cancer grew. I helped her die, then had to leave her there. The cancer grew. I helped her die, then had to leave her there.
Very, very powerful. It's so hard to lose a beloved dog. It really is. I know you're heartbroken even reading those words today.
Yeah.
But it's
Sorry.
nice that Lucy lives on for all of us now because of that very inspired poem. And it captures the way we feel. I just lost a dog about a year and a half ago. And that was my favorite dog of all time. It was just my pal, the one who always stayed near me. And
Right.
it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard. But it's beautiful that you remember her with that poem. That's great. And another person you remember in poetry is Princess Diana. Tell us a little bit about that
Well,
poem.
that poem is, all my poems are special, but that poem is especially special because there's so many eerie coincidences in our lives. First of all, our names are Diana. Uh, Obviously, she was married in 1981. I was married, I was supposed to be married in 81, but it was canceled. And I was married in January 2nd, 1982. She had her children in 82 and 84. I had my children in 83 and 84. She died when her car crashed on Sunday, August 31st, 1997. And I almost died that very same day, coming back from work at Del Mar, and the freeway was under construction and my lane ended. And I either had to go left onto the wrong freeway or try to get over with traffic in all the other lanes. And I decided to go onto the wrong freeway because there was a big, clover leaf and a big cement saying support for the clover leaf right in front of me. So I could have been killed that night. And so all those coincidences just made this poem kind of eerie for me. And I titled it Diana, Princess of Wales. The fairy must have lied, because modern fairy tales have happy endings. The old ones didn't, because they were supposed to teach children to be good. But that changed throughout history. And now they have happy endings. You know, the good side always wins. So that's why I said the fairy must have lied in this fairy tale, because it didn't end up happy.
Yeah.
Born on that isle in a silver sea, to family of noble dignity, a prince there came on polo pony, not on horse, leaned down and swept her up and set their course. Their wedding, the most wondrous one in years, was bought with English toil and English tears. Two princes born, she bloomed in motherhood. Her smile so sweet, it seemed her life was good. In life, what seems to be so seldom is. Deep sorrow dwelt in her eyes, blame in his. The love, if ever there, began to fade. Alas, their marriage not in heaven made. She called upon her strength, and it was there. She stood against the crown and her despair. She used her vibrant soul to carry love to hapless beings sent here from up above. She won the admiration of the world as on she traveled, heart and soul unfurled. But for herself, she yearned for peace and love. She searched through kingdoms here and up above. 'Twas on the verge of finding happiness that her most ardent suitor was dark death. And it was he who carried her away and left the world forlorn in its dismay.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hers was a charmed life in many, many ways, obviously tragic at the end. And all of us kind of remember exactly where we were when she was married and when she died. I was just graduating high school when she married, and I was working as a news reporter in Atlanta when she died. And yeah, she left quite an impression on everybody's hearts and lives in her short years that she had on this earth. Another very, very fascinating poem you wrote is called The Visitor. And
Uh-huh.
tell us a little bit about the astounding and disturbing facts you discovered about the story you told in the poem.
I will. I didn't know for a minute. I read about this poor little boy in Beaumont that was, swept away by a man out of his front yard and was found dead later. And they never solved it. But then I was watching people investigates, murders, and I found out that that same evil soul had been allowed to crisscross the country, killing children on parole and everything like that, until finally he was he jumped bail in Minnesota,
Mm.
and he went to Idaho, and he killed three of five people in the family. He bludgeoned them to death, took the little boy and the little girl named Shasta, went up into the mountains and raped them and tortured them, and finally killed the little boy, all on parole, all while he was on parole, from 1996 to 2005, where this wonderful, brave little girl watched him shoot her brother, burn his body, pretended that there was some kind of bond. So he took her into Coeur d'Alene, and they recognized her because, of course, her posters were everywhere because she'd been missing for 7 weeks. They had been. And they caught him and put him in jail finally for the last time without parole. And so I found out who had killed Anthony after all those years. I never knew. Sorry. But anyway, that was kind of interesting to find out, and also shocking that such a horrible killer could be let out over and over again to do his dirty deeds.
Amazing.
It's called A Poem for Anthony Michael Martinez. A twist of fate so cruel to cause alarm. A child was ripped out of his family's arms by something vile and evil that was spawned upon this earth to perpetrate great harm. Just how such things can ever be cannot be understood by you or me. And oh, it seems too much to understand. Such evil lurks and hides in shape of man, a vile, demented creature full of hate, ascended out of hell and tempted fate to turn the other way. And then he stole a precious life, battered a precious soul. A boy whose face shone with such radiant light was ripped and torn by deadly evil might. His body bore a story of such pain. The horror of it always will remain. A slender body found amongst the stones, bereft of life and all that it had known, that never will again feel warmth or love, whose soul has flown away on wings of doves.
Mm.
So,
very powerful, very, very powerful, very, very sad, tragic. Something like this never should have happened. They had this guy in the first place, and then
over and
that
over
he's
again. He'd
out
already
there
killed two little girls before he killed Anthony.
crazy, just crazy. Some of your poems, of course, tell of goodness and courage in the face of evil.
Yes,
Tell
they
us about
did.
one of your favorite stories of courage.
It's about a little terrier, and let me find it. Oh, here it is. His name is George, and he was born. Here's a picture of him that I drew, so it's not a very good one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I can't draw.
Very, very cute.
And he lived in New Zealand. And here's his poem. When small is just another word, a poem for George, Manaya, New Zealand's Jack Russell Terrier. His little body lies at rest, so tattered and so torn. Just yesterday he ran and played, nor did the signs forewarn. But as he jumped, frolicked, and played, welcomed his kids from town, a bloodlust of man's own design came bounding over the ground. Two pit bulls bred from man's desire for power and savagery attacked the children as they played. Death seemed a certainty. Just then a knight stood with no shield, no armor of shining steel. He used his body, his courage, his love, and all his strength of will. He saved his little friends that day, but paid a mighty price. He made the trade, and for their sakes, he offered up his life.
Beautiful, a beautiful tribute to my favorite breed of dogs. That's what I own is Jack Russell Terriers, and
They are brave little suckers.
they're so strong. They're solid muscle. My vet says if I have a dog he's a Jack Russell about that big, and he says if he was 6 feet tall, he would rule the world. And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. They're great dogs. Your poems are beautiful. They really capture wonderful segments of life, some dark, some light, some hopeful, some despair. But those are the emotions of life. And you've captured it all within the pages of this book. It is called Tales from the Disenchanted and Wisdom from the Haiku. Diana's poetry captures deep emotions, lost memories, and the essence of human experience through beautifully crafted verses. Diana, thank you so much for joining us here today
You're
on
welcome.
Spotlight.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Pleasure's all
You
mine.
made
Thanks
it
so
easy
much.
for me.
Well, that's great.
You're
Well, you've made
wonderful.
it. Thank you so much. You made it easy for me because you're such a great guest. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.